All right, here we're just going to do a close-up of each knot. Again, I used 2 different strands if you saw the first video, so you can kind of see the difference. The white sizzle kind of shows the direction that it's going. As far as the horizontal section, see if I can get the knot. There we go. You can kind of see how it goes. It's just one little loop, and you take the opposing rope and do a loop, the exact same loop in the opposite direction. And that's pretty much the gist of it. And then you end up with, Ruthie, say hi, Ruthie. You end up with a bunch of knots that look like this. The biggest thing is to try to keep the gaps out of it. Like here, there's a gap on the inside. You want to try to keep those out as much as possible. So then I'll go through, and before I'm done here, I'm going to tighten all those up. It's something that you have to do when you're making this. That's why it's so difficult. That's why it's so challenging. Is you have to go through and tighten and tighten and tighten until everything comes out pretty much perfect. Like this one's pretty good, so I don't have to go through with that one. That one's done. But that's where all the work comes in, is trying to lay it out, trying to cut the lengths of rope appropriately, and going from there. The other thing is, each one of these knots for this size of rope that I used 5/8 inch rope. So each knot takes up 3 inches of rope. So if you want to make a 6-foot cargo net, don't cut 6 foot of rope, because, well, then you're going to end up short, because every knot that makes a loop, that loop takes a certain amount of rope. So for each 6.5 foot strand that I made horizontally, I ended up using 13 feet of rope for the amount of strands that I made vertical. So you have to take the amount of strands you're going to make vertical or horizontal and then add in each one. So like this one I have 11 strands horizontal, and then 11 strands times 3 inches, plus I wanted a little bit hanging off at the end. You have to calculate all that in, because if you don't calculate the ends, then you end up with something like down here to where there's no rope hanging off at the end. So like here I have an end, there I have an end, but I forgot to calculate for this one, and this one, so I don't have extra hanging off, and it made it really hard to tie the knots. So again, the big things to keep in mind is how much you want left over on the ends, how big you want your squares to be. Like this is an 8-inch square by 8 inch. So like take the overall length for here, the length of the stand is 6 feet, so I took 6 feet, and then I went with 8-inch squares, and then plus the ends, and then add in the rope for the knots. So it's a little bit of math, but the biggest thing is I can't tell everybody what to do unless you give me all the setup that you want. So you have to tell me the length of rope, the size of the squares, you have to tell me everything, and I might be able to help you with that. If not, I mean, the calculations are there. So the ends, the size of the knot, the size of the square, and the length of the run that you want to do, and that's pretty much all stuff that you have to figure out.